Tonight on our news, the King's speech. King Charles delivers the first address of his reign, paying tribute to the late Queen. Plus, a vote may decide where the future of the monarchy stands for the Bahamas. Plus, why a former PM says he believes legislation against marital rape has been unsuccessful so far. You are watching scenes of gun salutes from all across the world today in honor of the late Queen Elizabeth II, who passed away peacefully yesterday at Balmoral. She was 96. Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. The spotlight is still on London tonight as King Charles III moves center stage as Britain's monarch. His ascension to the British throne follows the passing of his mother. In his first televised statement, King Charles remembering his mother saying, quote, "Her Majesty, my beloved mother, was an inspiration and example to him and his entire family. The affection, admiration, and respect," he says, "she inspired became the hallmark of her reign."
Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing. That promise of lifelong service I renew to you all today. Alongside the personal grief that all my family are feeling, we also share with so many of you in the United Kingdom, in all the countries where the Queen was head of state, in the Commonwealth and across the world, a deep sense of gratitude for the more than 70 years in which my mother, as Queen, served the people of so many nations.
In his 9-minute speech, King Charles also remembering his mother for her unswerving devotion and solemnly pledging himself to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of his nation.
In a little over a week's time, we will come together as a nation, as a Commonwealth, and indeed a global community, to lay my beloved mother to rest. In our sorrow, let us remember and draw strength from the light of her example. To my darling Mama, as you begin your last great journey to join my dear late Papa, I want simply to say this: thank you. Thank you for your love and devotion to our family and to the family of nations you have served so diligently all these years. May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
Described as a towering presence on the world stage, news that the Queen's health was deteriorating emerged shortly after midday Thursday, when doctors said she was under medical supervision. At 6:30 p.m. London time, there was a stunned silence as the flag over the palace was lowered to half-mast. The crowd gathered surged to the gates as the notice that the Queen had quietly passed was posted on the black iron palace gates. Around the world, condolences continue to pour in as the world marks the end of an era. As the world learned about the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, many mourned as they reflected on her legacy. Tonight, British citizens living in Grand Bahama telling our Jamila Mizik that the monarch will be truly missed.
Queen Elizabeth II's life came to a somber end on Thursday, ending her 70-year reign as the Queen of England, leaving many around the world in mourning. Royalist Jackie Jevons says her family came to Grand Bahama in 1965 from England. She describes the day before independence when Prince Charles met her father, who was the liaison officer with the Royal Navy at the time.
So I was 13 when I met Prince Charles, and I was 24 when I met the Queen. We went and got the medal in England, which was amazing. And since then, we've just been true royalists.
Jevons says the Queen's passing was devastating news.
One of the hardest things, I was thinking about it today when I was listening to the national anthem, you know, God Save the Queen. It's going to be so strange saying God Save the King.
Dual citizens Kay Hardy and her daughter Sarah Kirkby also reflecting on the Queen's life. Hardy recalls the time she received a Certificate of Honor in 2009, a designation by the Queen.
I got a letter from the palace telling me that I'd been proposed for an award, and I honestly couldn't believe it.
Hardy says her family got their first television in England in 1952, the year of the Queen's coronation, and they have always followed the royal family. Kirkby says the Queen was quite the role model, one who she admired for her love for the Commonwealth.
She was at every event. She was the stalwart. She was the person who was there. When the Queen spoke, it meant something. She also had children and she had a family.
Yeah.
So she was something to aspire to.
The women say King Charles III now has big shoes to fill, as the Queen will be truly missed. Reporting for our news, I'm Jamila Missick.
Queen Elizabeth II had distinct constitutional relationships with the churches of England and Scotland, dating back to the 16th and 17th centuries. In the nation's capital, Christ Church Cathedral paying respects to the Queen today, as the Dean of the Church giving God thanks and praise for the life of Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. Christ Church Cathedral commemorating the life and legacy of Queen Elizabeth II on Friday morning. Dean and Rector of Christ Church, the Very Reverend Harry Bain, sharing the rich history that exists between the Anglican Church and the monarchy. The bell was rung 96 times at Christ Church Cathedral to honor the life and legacy of Queen Elizabeth II. Candles also lit in her honor. Reverend Bain saying this prayer.
We thank you, God, for her life and legacy. We thank you for her example of leadership.
Reverend Bain says there has been a close relationship between the Church of England and the Anglican Church for years.
She was not an executive head of the church, but a titular head, where she was recognized as the person who represented the Anglican Communion in terms of its wider life and work and ministry.
The Dean and Rector also taking a moment to reflect on the Queen's life.
When she came out to the colonies and there was an opportunity for worship, she would worship in an Anglican setting.
He says King Charles III will now continue as the titular head of the Anglican Church. Overall, he says the Queen should be remembered for her ability to keep the Commonwealth united.
She certainly was a person of great care and great grace, dignity.
Now, many activists across the Caribbean wasting no time, saying now is the time for some Commonwealth nations to reconsider having the British monarch as their head of state. Now, the Prime Minister and former Prime Ministers are weighing in on the future of the monarchy in the Bahamas. Marlena Leonard reports.
Queen Elizabeth II's death marking the end of an era yesterday as the longest reign in British history came to a close. And for many nations across the region, the ascension of a new monarch reinvigorating the conversation about the removal of a ceremonial head. Prime Minister Philip Davis sharing his thoughts on the new monarch, King Charles III.
He and I have been working on raising and ensuring that the industrial nations fulfill their commitment. And so he has been a very true activist in this regard, and he and I have truly developed a partnership in that regard.
Now, while Prime Minister Philip Davis says he's hopeful about King Charles III's previous commitment to environmental issues, he says he can't cross out a referendum to become a republic.
That doesn't mean that at all. That does not mean that at all. The only challenge with us moving to a republic is that I can't, as much as I would wish to do it, I can't do it without your consent. I'll have to have a referendum, and the Bahamian people have to say to me, yes.
Speaking at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting earlier this year, then Prince Charles gave his blessing to countries seeking to sever ties with the monarchy. Leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition, the Free National Movement, Michael Pintard, weighs in.
Many Bahamians have indicated their interest in transitioning. I believe that we should have a candid discussion with the population, and I'm more than open to engaging in that discussion first internally within the Free National Movement and then helping to drive that discussion nationally.
But former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram saying,
I am not expected to speak ill of the Queen or the monarchy. So no, I have no comment to make about what the Bahamas might do in the future. I am quite comfortable as I am now.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Temperatures soaring today, but it felt more like the triple digits. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has the latest from the Weather Center. What can you tell us, Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Adalia. On this TGIF Friday, another warm evening setting up for us. Temperatures in the mid-80s, 86 with a few clouds. Still getting that south-southeasterly wind flow, bringing in some very warm temperatures at 8 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature at 90 degrees. On our satellite, disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico, pumping some moisture across the northwest Bahamas. Showers and thunderstorms are popping up across that area. We will continue to see that activity later on tonight and into tomorrow as this disturbance moves across Florida and continues to bring some more moisture across us. So looking for off and on showers through tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Thanks, Greg. And still to come on Our News, a former Prime Minister laments on his time working to get legislation against marital rape passed. And new details about the death of a 7-year-old on a swing set Thursday evening. And later, where a former PM stands on the demolition of domes on Abaco. That's coming up when Our News returns. New draft legislation, if passed, will outlaw marital rape. The news on a controversial issue coming from the Social Services Minister today. Bertha McDermott tells us that a former Prime Minister is also weighing in.
As government prepares to begin consultation on the issue of marital rape, Social Services Minister Obi Wilchcombe says he's pleased with the draft legislation, which he says outlines that rape can occur in marriage.
We're hoping to get some feedback from all sides on the draft of the legislation that will allow us to make strides in the right direction. But very clearly, there's an issue, and we have to deal with the issue one way or the other.
Wilchcombe's comments come after a controversial Supreme Court ruling in a divorce case which says Bahamian law doesn't make way for marital rape. The ruling came as a wife accused her then-husband of having sexual intercourse with her against her will numerous times. Prime Minister Philip Davis called the ruling curious, adding that the law says if a husband and wife are separated, rape can occur. Today, Wilchcombe saying it's an issue that must be tackled.
Criminalizes rape, and then it defines what rape is. And of course, rape can then occur and in any circumstance.
Including a marriage.
Including a marriage.
Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram also weighing in, saying his government made an attempt to bring marital rape laws to Parliament, but was unsuccessful.
I eventually announced to the public that I did not have the support of members of the FNM or the PLP in the House to pass the bill. And I was therefore going to withdraw the bill. So my effort did not succeed. I was also the one who ratified the convention at the United Nations to make that an international commitment for the Bahamas.
We also put the question to former Prime Minister Perry Christie, who remained tight-lipped on his views.
My thoughts are that whatever is in the best interest of the Bahamian people, my government, my successor will make the right decision, and I will support that decision.
Now, Social Services Minister Obi Wilchcombe previously said government is set to meet with the Christian community on September 15th to discuss the matter. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bertha McDermott.
20-year-old Takeo Poitia has been charged for the murder of 29-year-old Shanton Johnson, who was shot outside his home on Douglas Road in Gambare Village on Tuesday night. Prosecutors Johnson went outside around 2 a.m. Prosecutors say, that Johnson went outside around 2 a.m. to investigate reports that someone was trying to break into his home. While checking the property, police say Johnson was shot multiple times and died on the scene. Police arrested Poitia, who also lives on Douglas Road, later that day and allegedly seized a 9mm pistol with 6 rounds of ammunition. Poitia appearing before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt, charged with murder, possession of an unlicensed firearm, and ammunition addition, he was not required to enter pleas to the charges and was remanded to prison. He's expected back in court on January 28th for a voluntary bill of indictment that will send the case to the Supreme Court for trial. A businessman who live-streamed himself shooting at an occupied home has been arrested for violating his bail conditions. Prosecutors say 25-year-old London Ramming, the owner of East Car Wash, broke the 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew attached to his bail on July 15th. Ramming pleaded not guilty to the charge when he appeared before Magistrate Kendrick Haley today. He was remanded to prison and returns to court on September 12th for a bail hearing. Ramming was granted a $9,900 bail on July 8th in relation to a shooting on Jerome Avenue on March 14th. Prosecutors say Ramming tried to kill Ronaldo Georges, Evine Georges, and Jariah Adderley and endangered their lives in the incident. The death of a 7-year-old yesterday on a local park, prompting the Beaches and Parks Authority to speak out. Tonight, the chairman is emphasizing the government's commitment to providing clean and safe environments at local parks.
Chairman of the Beaches and Parks Authority, Mikel Barnaby, expressing condolences to the family of Devanya Butler, the 7-year-old that died after a swing set collapse. While noting the incident took place on private property, he says the death of a child is still very sensitive and unfortunate. Barnaby says he visited the site of the incident and spoke to administrators of the property.
I didn't see the swing. I think it was already removed. But from what I saw in terms of what was circulated in the media and what I saw with my very own eyes, it appeared to me that it was not on a park. It was on a premises that was contiguous to a park, that was connected to a park.
Now, Barnaby adds that the authority intends to work with private park owners to ensure that their parks are kept at a certain standard, a standard that could soon be legislation.
But obviously that is a process. We as a board would make the recommendations. The recommendations would then have to go before the ministry. And if it is approved by the ministry would then write a paper, which would then be submitted to cabinet so that we can see whether or not we can have it written into law or some policy.
The chairman adding that the authority is engaged in an ongoing revitalization exercise that is expected to upgrade and beautify hundreds of parks.
We know that these places are supposed to be safe places for children, and so that's what we're working towards.
To this end, he says the authority wants more open dialogue with members of the public.
And so some of the things that we will be doing at parks and beaches is going out on the parks, having grill outs, grill and chill with the board, grill and chill with the chairman, so we could kind of understand exactly what they would need because each area has particular needs.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Thanks, Megan. And still to come on Our News, tight-lipped what former PM Hubert Ingram did not say about dome demolition on Abaco. And sportscaster Marcellus Hall joins us now in studio with what he's got coming up. Marcellus?
All right, and thanks, Natalia. Coming up in sports for you tonight, here's what's going on for you. Jonquel Jones and the Connecticut Sun are back in the WNBA Finals. A dramatic come-from-behind game last night. We'll give you details on that. That's all coming up in sports.
Thanks, Marcellus. Sounds great. We'll have more news right after this break. This is Our News. Welcome back. Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram declining to comment on the recent demolition of the Spring City Dome site. The former PM was asked about the issue a day after the domes were torn down. Ingram insisting it's not his place.
No, that's not for me to decide. The two members of Parliament who are PLPs are opposed to it. I think that those two members of Parliament, Abaco, spoke for Abaco. Who am I to speak against Abaco? Good morning.
A remarkable fourth quarter puts Jonquel Jones and the Suns back in the WNBA Finals. Marcellus Hall joins us now with the highlights. Marcellus?
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. You know, sometimes having your back against the wall is all you need to inspire you to newer heights. Last night, it was do or die for the Connecticut Sun taking on the Chicago Sky, a team that sent them home last year in those WNBA playoffs. Jonquel and the crew not about to have that happen again. They go on an 18-0 run to end this thing and move back into the WNBA Finals. Let's take a look at the highlight. Jonquel Jones, the Connecticut Sun, in a winner-take-all situation facing off against the Chicago Sky, the very team that sent them home last year in the WNBA playoffs. This time around, Jones and the Sun determined not to have that happen, although it didn't look like that in the fourth quarter. Down by 8 points, Jones and the Sun, they rallied to go on an 18-0 run. Jonquel, 15 points. She had 10 rebounds. That helped along the cause, and guess what? The Sun come all the way back. They go ahead to win this thing 72-63, sending home Candace Parker and the defending champions in the process. They now advance to the WNBA Finals against the Las Vegas Aces. By the way, the Sun trying to overcome some history here on the bad side of things. They have the most playoff wins in WNBA history without a WNBA final. 36 in total. They're hoping to break that jinx. Game 1 comes your way on Sunday. And that is your look at sports here on this Friday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Have a great weekend. Back to you, Italia.
Thanks, Marcellus. Don't go away. Greg is back in the weather center in the tropics. What are we seeing, Greg?
Yes, Natalia, we're still tracking the tropics, getting a little busy right now. Still have Hurricane Erla. They're pulling out towards the north and east away from Bermuda. But we are also now watching 3 areas across the tropical belt. The National Hurricane Center giving those all a low chance for formation. We'll tell you all about that in our extended forecast.
Thanks, Greg. We'll see you back in a bit. Our news continues in a moment. Welcome back to our news. Activity continues to ramp up in the Atlantic. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is back in the weather center tracking the tropics. Hello, Greg.
Yes, Natalia, we are still tracking the tropics. Earl is still a hurricane out there, very powerful Category 1 hurricane, well, actually Category 2 hurricane, pushing out towards the north and east, away from Bermuda. A lot of showers still associated with the trailing trough across that area, still affecting the island, but it's going to continue to move towards the north and east and away from that area. National Hurricane Center now watching 3 more areas in the Atlantic across the tropical belt. Disturbance just around the center of the Atlantic has a low to medium chance for formation. Will continue to move towards the north and west, eventually turning more towards the north and east. Then we have 2 waves, one off of Africa right now, very weak one. That has about a low chance for formation over the next couple of days. And another strong tropical wave coming off the African coast. That is going to move over the ocean by tonight and into tomorrow. And the National Hurricane Center giving that one also a low chance for formation. Across our area, upper level trough and the disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico will provide us with some showers and some isolated thunderstorms into the weekend as it continues to pull most of that moisture across Florida and the northwest Bahamas. But a weak pressure pattern at the surface will continue to generate some light winds. Earl will provide us with some swells into next week. So boaters and beachgoers, we're asking you to exercise caution if you plan on doing any of those activities throughout the weekend. This is how Earl is shaping up. Category 2 storm, racing off quickly, 100-mile-per-hour winds, and it's moving very fast towards the northeast at 22 miles per hour. Will continue to do so into the weekend. By the early part of next week, we expect that to become an extratropical storm and should be no problems for anybody at that time. Boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. We're asking you boaters to exercise caution still because we still have some lingering swells out there. Winds will be southeast to south at 10 to 15 knots. Seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean, but they will be slightly higher in some slight to moderate swells. And of course, your high tide will be at 7:55 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your 7-day forecast, that moisture plume moving across Florida will provide us with some showers throughout the weekend and into early portions of next week. A couple isolated thunderstorms expected with that, but temperatures will stay near the 90-degree mark and those winds will remain light. That is a look at our weather. Make it a safe evening and have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Greg, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.